Here's Patrick Johnston of the Province and Postmedia. He covers the Vancouver Canucks and he joins us weekly. How are you?
I'm good. Got nothing to roll up, but I'm here.
That's unfortunate. It's a Friday night.
Yeah.
And in this town, lots of rolling on a Friday night.
Like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting Mike Rogerson excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Calm down now.
You know.
Do you believe that Elias Pettersson has not only had a breakout, but a breakthrough?
As long as it's not a break from, No, yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been a funny course, of course. As I said before the Four Nations, the spirit seemed better. Then he had a dreadful Four Nations. Probably, I mean, I think, picked up some kind of issue. Came back, was dreadful. Snapped at IMAC. But now seems okay again. And obviously is playing with some vigor and some fun. And, he's trying long shots, so the confidence is there. And, that goal that he scored against the Flames to me was the important thing because it was a dirty areas goal and kept his stick on the, his goal scores goal. Put your stick on the ice. So, yes, I think it's there. It's still, there's still a lot to do and a lot to build. But 3 goals in 4 games is nothing to sniff at. And that, to me, is an important thing.
100%. But we need to remind ourselves what peak Elias Pettersson looks like. I'll remind you of the first month of last season. So October 2023. Opening night, 4 points. Second night, 2 points. Game 4, 2 points. Game 5, 2 points. Game 7, 2 points. Game 9, 3 points. Game 10, 3 points.
Yeah.
That's what peak Elias Pettersson. So, and hey, I am super happy for him. I'm super happy for the Canucks and the fans that we've seen what we've seen. Not diminishing the turnaround that's happened. But that's the finish line. That is the finish line.
Exactly. And the guy that scored that goal against the Rangers last year, this is sort of he's now achieved, I guess, the minimum standard, shall we say. The bar is better. It's not just, that he's participating and shooting.
And you have to pass this point to get to that point, but
yes. But yeah, no, I do think there is signs of forward progress. Obviously, Quinn Hughes being back in the lineup, I think is going to be a huge factor because we know this when JT Miller was still here. Whoever was playing with Hughes was producing, and whoever wasn't was not. And they were producing, I think, in many ways by default because they were with Quinn Hughes, who is their best player. So the fact is that those two will likely spend a lot of time together now, and that is only going to be a good thing. So yes, I think there's every reason to think he's on his way back.
Do you believe PD's resurgence is the key to the postseason?
Oh, yeah.
The postseason? Or okay, yeah. Well, no, some might say Hughes' health, but
and
I obviously
think they're tied together.
Or
sure.
Hughes' performance more so than his health, because I'm not sure his health's going to be 100%, but so long as he's playing, he's still going to help you even at diminished capacity. So you think it's Elias playing like this and they make the playoffs?
Yeah,
so that's
fundamentally, yes. I think because then it's 2 people going. Right, it's not just one guy. Like you're right. I mean, part of it is that the Hughes is going to be back. He's going to add the more than 0 that he was when he wasn't playing. Right, he's going to be a highly influential player for this team. But you need the guys to score, and they have not been scoring. Even when Hughes was in the lineup before he got hurt, they weren't scoring. It was, it's astounding to look at every single. Whether you want to look at just numbers or charts, it's astounding how bad the offense was, even with Hughes in the lineup. And that was not on Hughes. That was on Miller and Pettersson. So it is about whether Pettersson can deliver. And certainly, like I said, the early returns of the last week or so are very positive.
Do you think the goaltending can hold up for the remainder of the season? Not because of quality, of course, just, the wear
doing enough.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they really need Thatcher Demko to come back. The confidence level in Artur Shilov's is very low. That's very clear. That he had that good start in Utah, but we haven't seen much else. and that's unfortunate. He was a nice story, he's a great guy, but I think essentially he's hit his ceiling, and they need Thatcher Demko back. I mean, obviously Demko is an unknown because there is going to be forever an injury question mark hanging over his head, no matter what. And Kevin Lankinen plays well in spurts, but Kevin Lankinen is not a guy that can carry the load. I mean, there's a reason why at most teams in the NHL have now shifted to this sort of 35-45 split in terms of games played, a 1A and a 1B. It's just the reality. The demands of the position are so high, you cannot expect a guy to be the guy in the way that we used to look at, 65 starts, 60 starts. Like, that's just not going to happen anymore. And Kevin Lankinen is a perfectly fine starter in that environment when he's making 35 starts. The question is, can Thatcher Demko be a 45 start guy? I mean, he's always been a guy that likes getting on a rhythm, but he just physically clearly can't do it. So is that something he's going to be able to handle once he comes back in? Obviously, they pushed the limit with him and they got burned. And now they've got to figure out if they can get somewhere with him in a new sort of capacity, I guess is the way to put it.
Quick clarification. You said Shelovs has hit his ceiling. Do you really think so? He's 23 years of age.
Yeah, Patrick has been resolute on this for a long time.
Yeah. Like, he just, the reality was he got scouted out. The long shots have always been a problem. And yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but I think
you think they have more faith in Tolopilo than Shelovs?
No, I don't know if that's really it. I don't think. I mean, he hasn't had a very good year either. So, there's a real. I wrote about this a while back. I mean, I didn't make a huge deal out of it, but like, to me, if you actually have a concern about the future of this team, it's in goal, because there's no next guy. It's also, I mean, obviously up front, there's no center coming down the pipe, but there's no goalie coming down.
You're not a Ty Young truther.
I mean, maybe. Listen,
let's not discount Young yet.
But it's got to be a long way for that kid to go, right? Like, he's had a great week. Don't get me wrong. Clearly, from afar, he's had a great week. But let's be clear. The preference, I think, was to have him play in the West. Would have been to have him play in the Western Hockey League,
right? And
there was nowhere in the Western Hockey League for him to play because he lost his job in Prince George last year. Like, and he was the old guy.
To a top prospect, we must say, though. To a kid who's likely going in the first round here, and I think you're right. But he's had more than a good week. He's had a good year.
Yeah,
he was exceptional
in
the ECHL, and he's been good in 8 5 games.
Yeah, sure. I'm just being.
But I get
it. No, I get
Patrick's
it.
right.
If you want, we've talked about before. Like Mikey DiPietro had. You want to talk about the guy who had more talent? Which guy's more talent? Well, Mikey DiPietro had more talent, and he's. I think he's great. He's a great story, but he hasn't even played in the NHL this year.
No.
Yeah.
So let's be real. Sorry, kids.
I think, and I just want to preface this by saying, I do not blame him, because athletic careers are short, and because you want to be able to help your team, not hinder your team. But I think Thatcher has effectively made a business decision here this year. That the first injury was scary. Right, the popliteus and not having a roadmap for recovery and all that, and no goaltender or hockey player having ever gone through it. I think Thatcher has decided, unless everything is perfect, he's not playing this year.
Yeah,
and again, I'm not throwing him under the bus here, because he's got a contract to get after this year, and also I think he feels like, I've got to be able to help my teammates if I'm out there, not just be out there for reasons of valor and appearances and some of the other reasons that hockey players lean on when they return before they really should return. I think he's brittle to begin with, and I think there's probably people around him say, you just got to get right, son. So I don't blame him in the least. I'm just not sure you can count on him for more than a handful of games here.
He does nonetheless have something to prove, right, to everybody. He's going to say, listen, I've had some struggles, but I'm not that guy. And, we're going to have to be realists and sit back and say, well, I don't know. But in the end, for him, the personal challenge is to prove us all wrong. And I hope he does, right? You hope he comes back to be the guy that he was 4 or 5 years ago. because that was a great. I mean, he still is a great goalie.
Just last
Even
year.
last year. But I just mean from the durability standpoint, right? Like eliminate the question mark. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to eliminate the question mark, but they need him to be an effective player because he can be. You put him as an effective goalie, whether it's a 1-2 with him and Lankinen. Either way, you get good starts from him, and they were getting good starts, right? Like right before he got hurt. Like let's not forget, they were getting really good starts, and they were starting to say, okay, and then it went sideways, right? Like that week before he got hurt, things were going well, right? Like the Canucks had a good, and this is the overall. I wrote about this yesterday. Like the funny thing in all this, for as badly as the results have gone, sort of in the last 3 weeks, I guess, since Four Nations. Like, if you zoom out and you look at how they've played since Miller was traded, they're creating a lot of stuff. They're actually creating good shots. They're actually playing really well defensively. It's not necessarily that they've had bad luck. There have been some bad games. Don't get me wrong.
PDO's not great. Yeah.
But the overall picture is that this is a team that actually could make something happen.
Yeah.
And I'm shining things up a little bit here. I get that. But I am very intrigued. Then that goes back to the original question. If Elias Pettersson really has found his way, this is a team that I think actually has reason to feel confident about itself.
Okay, we're going to ask you our poll question in a second, but just let me make the distinction. I think a lot of fans and media now look at this goaltending situation and go, oh, if only Thatcher Demko would get healthy and be able to play because he's better than Archer Shelovs. And I think the way Thatcher Demko is looking at it as there's a halfway chance I get hurt if I have to play again. And I'm not even sure I can be that effective given the totality of injuries. And let's face it, just the sheer lack of practice and facing NHL shots this season. Like, he has not had that many NHL shots touch his equipment since last June.
Oh, so, I think he's clear. He's not coming back until he knows that he's ready to come back.
Exactly.
But that's fine.
And that's fine. And I don't blame him for that because whether it's here or elsewhere, Thatcher Demko has a lot of career left that he's got to worry about first and foremost. And I don't ever blame a guy for sticking up for number one and the long term. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question based on your answer, confidence. Are you a subscriber to Just Get In and Anything Can Happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I think in general I would say no, and I actually think honestly this team is still obviously a work in progress in terms of its long-term destination. It is baffling to me that you go back to the trade deadline, they didn't even bring anybody in. But here's this team, and I think they've got a little bit of they believe it that we're still in it. And they've had enough results to tell them that, yes, they are right. Obviously, there have been some frustrations. The Dallas game probably deserved better, but in the end, they didn't get it done. Montreal, they got blitzed in the first period and tried to come back, and they ran out of steam. But credit to them, they came back against the for the first time this year, right after I wrote a column about how this team was lacking identity, and it was all about the fact that they hadn't come back to win a game. Well, they proved me wrong. Good for them. I'm sure that's what they put my name up on the tack board.
I was going to say, was your name on the whiteboard? Do you know whether or not there was a thanks, Patrick? Shove it up your.
I hope not. Well, I guess we'll find it. Yeah, we're recording before we're talking to them about UBC, but
okay,
we'll see. But no, listen. Am I winning their in guy? Sure, let's go for it. Let's have some fun. I will tell you that covering playoff games is a lot more fun than covering not playoff games, and certainly
so is attending them and watching
covering
them. Yes.
death march after death march. So selfishly, yes, winning your end. Let's go.
How do they score enough goals to make that happen? Last game out they win, and it's a fabulous comeback, but they did it in the third, and I don't think Nils Åman was a big part of it. Is taking Lekramaki, not that leaning on a rookie is necessarily good strategy either. How do they score goals? Is it just about Quinn Hughes and Pettersson? Do we just reduce it to that?
Well, Filipino's been pretty good. Filipino, let's be clear, in the line, if he remains on this team in the long run, and they build the way they want it to be, he will be a third line center. He is not going to be a second line center. But I admire what he has done since showing up and what he's tried to do. And generally the Canucks have been at the right end of the ice, I think partly because he plays with speed and he brings an element that this team doesn't otherwise have.
I like his skill set for sure.
Yeah. I like his skill set, but that said, he is not a natural full-on out-and-out goal scorer. They need Brock Besser. I mean, this is a story about Brock Besser. This is a story about Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Like, they have a couple wingers who know how to put the puck in the net. Now, Jonathan Lekkerimäki is not actually the solution because he's still a kid.
But it'd be nice for him to author a little story here, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. No, that's it. That's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
Like what you get from him is not just gravy. What you get from him will be great. And if you don't get anything from him, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. But you're putting him in the lineup because you believe he will bring you something. He will bring you some goals. And certainly, even since he's returned, I mean, he hasn't scored, but he gets shots off. Like, that's the thing that gets me, is he gets shots off there, and they're hard shots, right? Like, these are shots that the goalies have to, like, they have to manage, like, it's not just, oh, he got, it's on that, and oh, there we go. It's stuff. He challenges goalies, and I think, he came up, he's playing with a new center in Filipino. At least that's who he had been playing with. If he continues to play with Hedl, like, there's a guy that, if they can find something there, sure. But it's really, in the end, it's about Brock Besser, and they need Brock Besser to find his groove back with Elias Pettersson. And after the game last Friday on trade deadline, when Farhan and I touched a little bit on this, but I put it in my post game story. Like, Besser talked about sort of how his game has evolved. It was a really interesting question. Farhan basically said, you haven't played directly with PD in a long time, and do you think you guys can find that again? And Brock said, when I played with JT, I had to learn to play differently. Like, it was a much more direct, straight ahead game, obviously forechecking, winning pucks on the boards. And I think I got better at that. And I think he's right. I mean, obviously his feet are still not there, but you think about a guy going, you think about the puck goes in the corner. Brock Besser wins that puck a lot of the time. Which isn't necessarily.
He's not first on the puck on the forecheck a lot because he doesn't have the pace. But you're right. Once it becomes more stationary, Brock is pretty effective there. Sidewall as well.
Yeah, but he also became a guy that recognized where the seams are, and that's why he scored 40 goals last year, right? Like, he went to goal scorer spots and scored goals, and scored in a variety of ways, which is the good thing. And Pettersson, himself has said, well, I think of myself more as a passer. And obviously he only has 1 assist in 4 games, but there is something there, right? Like those two have played well, and that they need them to play well together, because if there's any center that fits best with Brock Besser, it is almost certainly Elias Pettersson, because he's right now is the best passer on the team.
Yeah.
It was JT Miller, but Pettersson and obviously Hughes, and Besser and Hughes, and there's something there, right? Like, they need production. They need both those guys, and that comes back to the original question, which was, winning your end. Well, yeah, if they're scoring, absolutely anything can happen.
Brock is a very intelligent hockey player.
Yes.
That is one of the things that has allowed Brock to compensate for his lack of pace. I would quibble a little with, I mean, you might be right given the dearth of centers. It's just, boy, there is not a lot of pace on that line with Elias and Brock. Like, you want rush chances, and you're getting rush chances with those 2/3. So, forecheck, that's also, so much is going to be on the left winger there. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're shorthanded here in terms of offensive talent through the top 6, so that may be the best way to go. But long term, I think each guy needs someone different if Brock is going to be here long term. Quickly, I want to ask you 2 more questions. Are you okay if I ask 2 more questions?
You're go nuts.
Do you need the full 4 points this weekend? Are you happy with 3 of 4? Calgary is in Colorado tonight. They host Colorado tonight, and then on their big, long Eastern road trip through Toronto and the Rangers to start. Right. Are you happy with 3 out of 4 points on the weekend, or do you need all 4?
I think with the win over Calgary on Wednesday, yes, 3 or 4 is fine. You want 4-4, obviously. This now becomes the goaltending question, right? Like, what are you going to do there, right? Like, I've already
I asked because then you got Winnipeg coming here. Then you're on a hellish road trip.
Yeah.
St. Louis, Rangers, Devils, Islanders.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least they got to sit in New York for a week, But
well, and play some underman teams too. Jersey is falling apart here with all their injuries.
Yeah, but that's who the Flames are playing to, right?
Yeah,
whatever.
but
yeah. Like, listen, the challenge is, I mean, Utah. Like, I was talking to someone the other day, like, and there's a lot of buzz now about Utah, about how they're playing. Like, they're doing a lot of really good things well. I know that sounds strange to say, but that's what I mean. Like, they're doing the good things and they're doing them well. And they're a tough team. Like, they are going to be an interesting challenge. So realistically, 3 of 4. Yeah, obviously you have to beat the Blackhawks.
Yes. Lastly, Tom Wielander could be playing his final collegiate game tomorrow. Yeah. Do you know what the plan is? Do you know whether they have designs? Of course, they have to have him on the we talked about this with Gilman this week. When you're a first-round pick college, you're almost the expectation now is that you are
top 15.
Exactly, that they sign and they're going to spend some time on an NHL roster, if not in an NHL lineup. But you tell me, do you know the plan here? Do you think they would drop him right in, particularly if they have injuries to Myers and DPD?
Well, yeah. I mean, the injury situation obviously changes everything. I mean, it was funny as soon as we sort of knew that we saw that Forward was dealing with stuff, I'd heard a couple of game time decisions. I assume he was one of them. Myers obviously was the other. And now you're dealing with Junior Pettersson. Like, I found myself thinking, boy, this is exactly why I'm surprised they traded Carson Soucy, because there was an NHL competent defenseman, but now they don't have him. So there's a hole there. And that was the reality was, when you poked around and you said, why did you trade Carson Soucy? Well, because we believe in Junior Pettersson, we believe in Victor Mancini, and because Tom Wielander is probably going to be here very soon. So, will he play right away? I don't think so. The trend has not been to put him in right away. It's to get him some practices and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he's going to play. I don't think there's any doubt. Assuming BU, their season does come to an end in the sequence we expect them to come to an end, he's going to sign here. I have every expectation that's going to happen, and he is going to get some ice time. I mean, this is part of the thing. I mean, I said this on Saturday. For all the sort of misfire that was Friday in terms of handling the Besser situation, not ending up bringing in a new center. I think they like Pia Suter, but they could have gotten a second-round pick for him. For all the misfires, they did do one thing right. They've reset their defense, right? And you go all the way back to Marcus Pettersson, and I think Marcus Pettersson has been a good player for them. He's had some struggles, but I think he's battling something as well. But he's been a good player for them. And Victor Mancini is a very interesting player, and we've talked a lot about him here already in terms of how that depth chart plays out. This defense is an interesting looking defense now, and there is something there to build with. And Wielander obviously is going to come in, and we'll see what he's like. He's had a good year. He may, it's going to obviously be a big step up and a big demand on him, but he has progressed well enough this year to say this guy should be a top 4 defenseman. And that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So,
right.
that's a good thing. Like, I think it's a good thing here. And, they still, obviously, we talked about goals, and Blake is right. Who's going to score goals? And it's not going to be Tom Wielander. Let's be clear on that.
No. He's not.
But he can make a pass.
No, but he might be able to make a pass. Yeah, exactly.
And he'll be a contributor. And they've got a mobile defense core that is going to play more in the direction that Rick Tocchet wants them to play.
Dallas Aikens, we had him once for trade deadline in between coaching jobs, and he once said to us, I believe it was about Jeff Petrie, if I'm not mistaken, he said, don't discount that defenseman who doesn't have the high point total but has started a play in his own zone that leads to a goal. They're offensive contributors, even if they don't show up.
There's a third assist.
Exactly. There's a third assist and their fourth assist sometimes on a lot of goals that go the other way because of a smart play or a pass by a defenseman who's not going to get credit.
Marcus Pettersson was that guy in Pittsburgh.
To some degree.
Chris Anna, right? Like guys
good points. Yeah.
Are you in with Jeff at all this week on Rink Click?
Not weekend? Currently scheduled to be.
Okay. All right. Then we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you.